Hi friends, welcome to my YouTube channel. I have started a very brand new series on my YouTube channel related to the Angular basics, and this is the very first video of this series. In this series, we will be going to cover various basic concepts of Angular, such as its building block, Angular life cycle, and so on. For this series, you will be requiring Angular 14. You can always download and install Angular 14 and create a brand new project out of it. You will get various useful links on Google and YouTube on how to download and install the Angular version and create a basic project. Moreover, in this series, we will all be also touching up the various code bases so that you can understand how the basic concepts work. I have created a sample project for this particular course of the video. Eventually, as the application changes, the project will also be upgraded. So let's start. Let's start with the definition of the Angular. So Angular is basically a smartest JavaScript binding framework which binds HTML, that is a basic UI code, with the JavaScript model. Angular tells that you just focus on the HTML and have the model, and all the binding networks and binding communication between them will be taken care by the Angular. Angular defines itself as MVVM, that is a model view view model. It is also said that Angular is MVC of the JavaScript, that is a model view and the controller of the JavaScript. As we have various definitions of the Angular, so people generally says that Angular is nothing but MVW architecture, where W stands for whatever. It is basically a view model, or we can have the controller to control the view and the model. As we can see here, we have a view, that is a basic HTML UI code, and we have a model. Model can be anything, and the communication or the uh, two-way binding communication between the view and the model is done by something called as components. In this video, we will be learning about the basic building blocks of the Angular. So here, as we can see, we have these building blocks of Angular, which is nothing but model, component, view, service, pipe, directive, and module. One by one, we will be touching up on these building blocks. Let's check. First, first is model. So model is nothing but a contract between the component and the view. It is nothing but a specific kind of a interface or a contract which the view have a component have to be implement to communicate with the view. This model can be a simple class, or it can be an interface, or a basic primitive data structure like string, number, etc. So let's see in our code like what are the models and how we can define it. So as I said that model can be a specific class or it can be a interface. So here I have given both the example of model being a class and the interface. For explanation purpose, I have included two different properties in this model. The first is the default title and second is the uninitialized title. So these properties can be anything according to your application. For example, if you are working on something called as hospital management system, then you can have models such as doctor model or patient model, where you can have the in the patient model you can have the name of the patient, age of the patient, what is he diagnosed with, etc. In the doctor's model you can have name of the doctor, in which specialty he has been specialized, etc. So this is basically the example of the model, and as here you can see if anyone watching this video is already familiar with the Angular, then they can observe one small difference here in default title. So in default title, I have added this exclamation mark, and in the uninitialized title, even if I have typed it as a string, I have to again retype it as a undefined as well. Basically, I have to give the or typing for the uninitialized title. This is because of the strict TypeScript mode of the Angular 14. So Angular 14 says that whenever you are defining any class, then all the properties of that class should be initialized. But here it is not possible every time to initialize all the properties of the class. At some places we have to just declare them initially and then we can initialize or define them later. But here, as we are using the strict mode, Angular says you have to first initialize it. So I don't want to initialize this default title. So what Angular suggested me to do is to add a definite assignment assertion to this particular property, which will tell Angular that this default title is not initialized now, but you can take its default value such as null over here. So I'm adding this exclamation mark over here, and in this way we can get rid of this error. Similarly, the other way to get rid of this error is to add undefined type to this property. So for example, if I remove this undefined type, yeah, so now I'm getting this error, but again we can get rid of this error by adding the undefined type to the property. But the good practice here is that whenever you are writing any class, then the property should be initialized. This should be the good practice while defining any class. But you have to define a class without initializing any property, then you should go for interface rather than the class. So here in the interface you can see that I have the same two properties, but in this case Angular doesn't compel me to initialize them. Hence, I don't have the exclamation mark over here, and also it is not required to type it with the undefined, because Angular knows that this is an interface and this is basically a contract. So this interface will be implemented by some other class, and the other class can initialize that particular properties. This is a model which is a class model or the interface model. So here, talking about primitive models, we can also have the model in the form of basic string or a boolean structure or some other user defined interface structure. So this all is nothing but a model. And going further, this model is used in a specific UI file here, that is this communication happens between the component and the UI file to display this particular models. So as here you can see, we have this name property which is initialized by this product one string, and this name property is used here in the model uh, in various input tags as a ng model. So I have also hosted this here, and as here you can see, this particular name property appears over here. So in this way the communication between the component and the view happens. Yeah. So the second building block is nothing but a component. Component is one of the most basic building block of the Angular, and as we have already seen that component is used to bind model with view, that is the HTML. So here not only component gives the data to the HTML, but HTML can also ask the component to modify that particular data and send back to the HTML. So we can say that view communicates to the component via event. This is also one type of the communication between view and component. So here further we will be discussing about various building blocks, and these building blocks are nothing but normal classes. But to identify them as a building block, or to classify them as a specific building blocks, Angular decorates these simple classes with a specific type of decorator. So we have building blocks such as components, modules, services, pipes, directives. So these are nothing but simple classes which are decorated by the specific decorator. So as we are now learning about the component building block, let's see how the component building block looks like. So here I have one example. I have this product component over here, and as you can see, this is normal class, that this we have defined it as a class product component, and we have exported it. What this export does is that if you want to use this particular class outside this file, then we will have to use this export here, so that it will be available outside this file as well. So this is a simple class. Okay, this class will not be a component if we don't write this decorator structure over here above the class. This component decorator is nothing but a class decorator. So whenever we write this component decorator over here, Angular understand that we have to write a component, or we have to define a particular component. So again, this component decorator is initialized with various properties over here, as you can see. But these are not only the properties which is required for the component decorator. So here, if you right click and you go to the definition of the component decorator, you will be able to see various other properties which we can pass to the component decorator. But these all properties are not mandatory or compulsory on the initial basis. So some of the properties which we require now is selector. So here we have the selector, and one string is attached to that selector. So this selector is nothing but a string, or by which the particular component is uniquely identified. So this selector is basically used when you have to use this component into the HTML of some other file or the other component over here. So now below this I have just defined some other component in the same file. It is okay to do that, there is no harm in it, but it is not the best practice to do it. Always we should have one file or one class to have its single responsibility. So it is better if you define the other component in some in different class. So for now I will just rename this selector, because I have given this selector the same name. And if I have to use this particular uh, selector in some other component, then I can always do this. So here Angular will recognize that this product is some user defined component, and now we have to use this product into the HTML of this product one component over here. So in this way we can use the component into the HTML of the other file by using its selector. The second property is nothing but a template URL property. So by using this template URL property, we can register a particular HTML file to the particular component. Means by doing this, Angular will understand that this HTML file will communicate with this particular class of the Angular, and like vice versa. Component class can also communicate with the HTML, as we have already seen. The other property, which is an alternative property to the template URL, is nothing but a template. So if you don't want a dedicated HTML file for the particular component, then you can always use this template property, and here you can write your HTML code if it is not too long. So you can either use this template URL or template over here. But if you use the both, then Angular will prefer this template URL. So here, as you can see, you have this product component.html, and here you have this long code. You have many tags, and you have some radio buttons over here, and we have this span and some other things as well. And in the template, here we have this div with the interpolation 1 1. So if you go here, and if you go to the products, we will be seeing this particular code which is there in the HTML file of the product component, but not the template. So let's try and comment this and check what we will be getting as a output on browser. Yeah, so now as we have commented this template URL over here, and we also have the template property assigned to the component decorator, we will be seeing whatever is there in the template. But the first preference Angular always give is to the template URL rather than the template. Yeah. So in the component, there is a life cycle of the component which we will discuss in some other video. So there are various interfaces which will be implemented, and the Angular acts or uh, does the perform according to the particular life cycle. And in the component class we can define various properties here. We can have the constructor method of in the component class, which doesn't come under the Angular lifecycle. And we have this interface method which is required to be implemented if we write this implements in a particular interface while defining this class over here. So this was all about the component building block. Then we have the next building block as view over here. So view is nothing but a simple HTML code. So here we can have a simple HTML code including which includes div, h1, p tag, etc. And this view displays the model which is sent by the component. Like we have already seen, we have this property over here called as name property, and we have this view, and here we use this name property to the various tags, and this name property is getting displayed on the browser. Here product name, and here also in the input property type text we have this product name over here. So in this way the communication happens, and it also communicates with the component through the event. So this is something new which we haven't discussed yet. So we have discussed that component communicates with the view, but how the view communicates with the component is by using this event. So here I have used the predefined event, that is the ng model. Event is recognized by the round braces here. So we have this round braces uh, here in the ng model. Yeah, so it states that this is nothing but a particular event. So here we can also have some other events such as the click event. So see again, as the click is a particular event, it is always surrounded by the rounder bracket, and I can bind this event over here. Yeah, so as I haven't uh, defined this event in the component, it will give me the error which says that property click does not exist on the product component type over here. So what I will do is that I will go to the product component and I will define this. Yeah, and we can write here it is clicked, or we will actually give the alert. Yeah. So if we want to test this, just save all the files over here and go to browser, and I guess we have given over here. So when I click on this particular input type, it just gives me this alert message saying that it is click, which we have written over here. Yeah. So this is the way how by which the template or the UI communicates with the component. Yeah. So let's proceed toward the other building block, that is the directive. So directives basically help you to attach behavior to the particular HTML DOM property. So in the view basic building block, what we have seen is that view is a simple HTML code, but it is simple when we just use the div tag, span tag, p tag, etc. So what makes it little different in the Angular framework is nothing but a directive. We can attach various directives to the view or HTML DOM so that we can add up on various behavior or the attributes to that particular uh, UI code or the HTML DOM. So directives, we can specify that they are the Angular syntaxes which we write inside the HTML UI code. So this is altogether a different topic which will require explanation, and also some examples with the help of the code. So we will take this in the another video itself, dedicated video. But here you can always remember the types of the directive. So we have this structural directive which defines the structure of the DOM, like how we want to present it, whether we have to display a list, which we can do by using ng-for, or we have to display a particular uh, DOM element on the basis of some condition, then we can use ngIf. So these are the structural directives. Then next we have the attribute directive, which defines the behavior of the particular HTML DOM. Like whether we want this to be hidden, then we can use the hidden directive, which is the Angular predefined directive over here. And third is the component directive. So this is nothing but the input properties, that is a data property which is user defined again, which is basically user control. So here for this video purpose, I have used one view called as this hidden view over here, hidden directive over here, and I have binded this directive with one model called as toggle. So this toggle is nothing but a boolean. If you see here uh, in the class, I have defined this toggle as a boolean property, and I have defined it with the true. Okay, so now this particular block is nothing but hidden block. This is hidden block over here. And also to show you to unhide this and show you how this attribute or directive work, I have added the radio button over here, and I have also attached its model as this toggle. So whenever I change the value of this radio button, then the value of this toggle model or toggle property in the class will update. So let's see. Yeah, so now it is hidden. Now I will check this unhide, and you can see that whatever it was hidden, it is now displayed on the browser. So in this way, directive gives the behavior to the HTML DOM. Yeah. So next building block is nothing but a service. So services are basic class with another type of the decorator called as an injectable decorator. Uh, by giving this decorator to the class, Angular understand that this class is something to be injected uh, by the Angular, so that we can use it without creating a different instance of this class in each and every file. So this concept is called as a injection, which Angular takes care on its own, and hence we can now use it without creating the different instance of this injectable classes in the component or in another injectable class as well. So yeah, so this is the class, and this particular class is a service because it is decorated by this injectable decorator over here. So we have this injectable decorator which make this class as a service class. So now here we also have some properties to this injectable decorator. As you can see, we have some properties, but it is generally used like by on its own, that is without giving any property. So if you want to make this particular class as a singleton class, that is you want this particular class or the service to be used from use as a single instance in overall project, then you can always put this one property that is provided in, and you can assign it to root so that this particular service class will be injected in the root. Okay, but if you want this particular service to be injected in the in the particular module only, then you can always add this or register this particular service in the module under the providers array. By doing this, this service will be available in all the components, directives, pipes, etc., which is used in this module itself. And every time you don't have to register this in the providers of the any component. So whenever you register this service under the provider of any ng module or ng component, then it creates a different instance of this service class. So if you don't want different instance of any service classes or the injectable classes, then you can do this once by registering it in the module. But if you want multiple instance in multiple component classes, then you can register in the providers array of that particular component. So here, as I said, we have multiple properties. One of the properties providers, and I want different instance of the product service for this particular class. So I will be writing here as product service, product service. Yeah, so I will get a different instance over here, but still this instance is always available to use for this particular component, but it will mainly focus on the instance created by this particular component itself. Yeah, so this was all about the service, and this service can contain the code like which is used to call the API and bring the data, or it can contain some common code which we will be using uh, to communicate between two components which are not parent and child, or these services can be also used as a store managers for various modules. Depending upon its application, user or the developer can decide uh, where we have to inject, whether we have to inject it on the root or for the particular module or inside the particular component itself. Yeah, so this was all about the services. The next building block is pipe. So what does pipe does? Pipes help you to transform the data on Angular UI expression from one format to some other format. So uh, this application can be done like without pipe as well. But pipe acts as a common source of a code, and you can reuse this particular pipe code in many HTMLs as well. So instead of repeating the same piece of code again and again in any HTML or any component file, you can always create a pipe and use this pipe in the component. And also you have to segregate some logic from the component. Then you can create the pipe and add that particular logic in the pipe itself. So there are some Angular pipes as well, predefined pipes, that is async pipe, uppercase pipe, and lowercase pipe. There are many examples. You can always see it on the Angular site, that is angular.io. And also user can create their own pipes according to their use or the purpose. So here I have created one pipe, that is, this is multiply pipe. So again, this particular class is identified as a pipe because it is decorated by the pipe decorator by giving the property name. Again, you can go to the definition and you can check various other properties which you can use to declare this pipe decorator. Here I have used only one property, that is name property. This name property uniquely identifies the pipe. That is why if you want to use this pipe in some other HTML file, then you can use this multiply tag over there after the pipe symbol. So I will tell you like how to use this pipes. Yeah, so this pipe implements one interface called as pipe transform, and this pipe transform interface have one method called as transform method. It has just one method called as transform method, and this transform method is responsible for uh, like doing some components or for transforming this data into some other data which we require. Okay, now a particular Angular module should understand that its component require this pipe. So to make it understand, what we have to do is that we have to register this pipe under the declaration array in the Angular module over here. So as you can see in the under the declaration array, I have this multiply pipe, which is the name of the class of the pipe. Okay, in this way I made Angular understand that the whatever components we'll be using over here will they will require the multiply pipe. And to use this pipe in the HTML, yeah, I just have to like if I want to do the multiplication of 4 into 3, then 4 will be my value, and I have to transform this particular 4 into its a third multiple. So I will use this a name of the pipe, that is multiply, and again it requires some other data as well, that is 3, that is the multiple. So I will give some other data by using semicolon. In this way you can give multiple data to this pipe also, like you can give some string if it requires some string. But now our pipe doesn't accept the third property, so it gives us the error. So let's remove it, and in this way you can use pipe. So here if you see in the code, I ask Angular to display 4 but transform it into its third multiple. And here in the HTML you can see that you will get multiply pipe, and you can see the multiplication, that is 4 into 3. So in this way we can use pipe to transform data. So this is the basic logic which we have written in our pipe, but there can be some complex logic as well, like getting the percentage or getting some multiple data. So all this logic can be concentrated in a single class, and this class can be used in various HTML file. And also you can have some various public method, not only this transform method is just of this particular interface, but you can have some other method as well. And these different methods can be used in component classes by having this pipe in the component class. Yeah. So last and the final building block of Angular is modules. So whatever we have seen till now, all the building block, that is a component, then we have pipes, directives, services, etc. All these building blocks have to be registered somewhere to use it. So module basically helps us to group all the other building blocks. It acts as a standalone plugin for a particular feature. For example, in I will take the same example, that is hospital management system, where you can have the doctors module, you can have patients module, you can have medicine module, and you can have the other components, directive, services, models which is required by that particular module inside that module as registered or declared. So this module also contains routing information. So Angular also helps us to manage the routing of various applications or the feature we do. So this is also some other concept which we will see, uh, which I will explain in some other video. So let's check what is module. So here we have this module, and again it is a normal plain class which is decorated by the ng module decorator. And I have declared some properties here of this module, that is the imports, declaration, providers, and exports. Again we have other properties as well. Here we will see here we will see we have providers, then we have declaration which we used here. We have imports, we have exports, we have entry component. We have not used this entry component because we don't need it for now. We have this bootstrap property, etc. So let's check our module. This import property is basically used to register the third party modules into this module. Like this form module comes from the Angular forms, and it contains the data, or it contains a component regarding the Angular forms. So we can, if we will be using Angular form in the HTML of any component, then we have to import this forms module instead of creating or declaring that particular form component again in the same module. So we can always take the bundle of the form module itself. Again we have the other third party module called as common module. So here you see this ng model. This ng model actually comes from the common module. So if I comment this common module from here, I will get the error here in the pipe as well, because all this comes from the common module, so which is nothing but Angular module itself. Yeah. So we have this declaration property. Under the declaration property, we can register the components which will be the part of this particular module. So we will have the product component and one component which we declared this, and we are registering this in the under the declaration array. Similarly, we can register directives and pipes also under the declaration array. The third property which we use is the providers property, and in the providers property we can register the services which are required by this particular module, so that we can have a single instance of the service for all the component directive pipes which is registered inside this module. Yeah. And next we have this export called as the product component. So this export property is used whenever you want to use the selector of the particular component in the HTML of the other component, or you want to use refer component A into component B, okay, of a different module itself. In that case, first you have to export this particular component outside this module, and you have to import that module into some other module. Then you will be able to use the component selector in the HTML of the other module. Yeah, so what example I have given you in case of the component selector, that was inside or inter module, you can say. Both the components were of the same module, and we have used the selector of one component into the other component. But here the export property is basically used when we have to use the component of module A into the HTML of the other component, say for example module B. Yeah, yeah. So that's it for the basic building blocks. Thank you very much for being there with me till now. If you have any doubts, questions, or any suggestion regarding this video, then you can always drop it down in the comment section. Yeah, thank you very much. Till then, keep learning. Bye.